And my dudes, guess what? I'm doing a new 14-page short Twilight Monk comic. That's right. People have been asking for a long time. I finally broke down. I'm doing it. I did it. Actually, it's already done. It's a manga format, so it's over on Manga Plus Creators right now. It's a contest. Please go over and vote for it so I can get at least something for doing this. But in the process, I learned a couple of things, and one of the specific things I wanted to talk about is that I drew these pages. People see the screenshots on my Twitter and on my Instagram and on my I post here in my community. People see that I'm drawing on A4 page size. That's like 8.3 by like 11.7 or something. It's smaller than American style comic book pages are drawn at. American style comic book pages are drawn at 11 by 17. And so I wanted to talk just a little bit about like why I chose to do this. Was it a good idea? Was it a bad idea? Because maybe if you're trying to draw a comic or a manga in today's modern era, you might have to consider like what size page do I want to draw these on. I found a lot of advantages with drawing smaller like this. The first of which, numero uno, is that one, it's super portable, man. And I love being mobile. This is something that like when you're working in video games, you're stuck at a computer desk all day. But when you're drawing a comic on these smaller pages, I can literally grab my satchel, like throw my pages in there, head on out to the cafe, the coffee shop, or the, anywhere and sit in a park and draw. And it feels good to be mobile, to be outdoors, to be writing and drawing again. So it's a wonderful thing to have these like smaller pages. There's a couple other advantages that I'll recommend as well. And the second of which is that, especially with manga pages, it's so much more about storytelling and flow and panel to panel movement. And so you especially notice that like with One Punch Man, most pages don't have more than 3 panels. And I love that because there's no confusion as to which panel to go to next. You just immediately read and it translates super easily. And sometimes, and especially with One Punch Man, they'll do like a full page of just something that's like two lines of dialogue. And so, like you can really focus on the storyboarding and the flow of what's happening in the scenes. And if you're much more interested in the storytelling of drawing comics and manga, drawing on smaller paper is a big advantage. It also takes less time to do them. So I don't spend as much time jamming in tons and tons of detail. And I end up like, I don't want to be just like an artist anymore. And I know that sounds weird, but it's like, I would prefer if when people look at my comics, they go, oh, that was a really cool story. And what happened here was really neat. More so than if they just go, oh, cool art. And I know that's tricky. It's a tricky balance because we live in an era where Instagram, it's like, is it good art or is it bad art? Well, more detail sometimes equals like more appeal, more people click on it. But I think better art for a comic is art that tells the story, that serves the story. And so like that's what I really wanted to emphasize. And drawing on smaller panels, smaller pages really helped with that. The third thing, it's cheaper. It's cheaper because you can get more of these pages and for a lot less cost. I get these in like bundles. The ones I used for this is made by Deleter. I'll put the link in the description below, but you could just get your own paper from your local craft store, Michael's or whatever. And frankly, it's fast, it's cheap, and you use less ink and you use less supplies. This specifically though, like there's some disadvantages, and I want to cover those real quick. Disadvantages of drawing on A4 size paper is that there's a lot of cleanup involved. If you're using like, I use a lot of like Zig Writer pens, for example, and quite frankly, you can see the end of corners and things. And I ended up having to do probably 20 minutes of cleanup on every page, even though I never really spent more than 4 hours on any page. And that was a huge advantage of it being smaller. But then I'd have to spend a little bit of extra time like cleaning things up and moving things around. When you're doing that cleanup, you realize like, I really wish I could have gotten more detail into that particular spot. So the artist in me is always kind of battling me on this. So I think that like I don't want to go 11 by 17 because that's too much of a production. I can't whip out like a huge 11 by 17 inch paper wherever I go. It's too much, like draws too much attention. So I'll probably go right in the middle, and that is the B4 size. And also the dimensions are better for a manga and a comic book format. The thing is, like, I love working with traditional materials. It's super rewarding and it feels really nice, especially because I can just sit on the couch and do this. And I don't have to be stuck at a desk. I really hate, especially I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't like being stuck at a desk anymore. And also the other downside of the smaller paper, by the way, is that it's I got to use my glasses all the time. And it's a real strain on your eyes. Once you get around like 40 years old, I don't know anybody that doesn't have some problem with their eyes around that age, right? So like it just happens to where like it's a lot of strain, and then I get headaches, and then I can't draw. So it's like I think working a little bit bigger, but still keeping the benefit of the compactness of the smaller paper. So there you have it. There's my pros and cons of working on A4 size paper. And while I'll probably move up to B4 size, which is like, to clarify, that's about like 9.8 by 13.9 paper. And I think that's like right in the middle. I think that's like a best place to go. And I would highly recommend that for other people if any of those things are a concern for you. So when I was working on Ghost Rider at Marvel back in 2000, I was working on 11 by 17, and that's 11 by 17 inches. That's the standard for American style comics. And I would spend 12 hours just on the pencils, man. Just the pencils. And then Danny Miki would go in and ink that, and he'd spend another 12 hours or more just on the inks. So man, it was just such a big production. So much work went into those pages, and they look good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not unhappy with that work, but it was so much more about the art, and I just want to do more about story these days. So much more about story. And most of my favorite books are story focused. Most of my favorite books that my wife and I read are so much more about the character arcs and the flow of panels. And we realize like a lot of times I'm not stopping to look at the art in a manga. I'm stopping to reflect on the moment that just happened in the story. And that's what I want to give to readers. You know, if you're interested in reading the Twilight Monk short story, it's called Cookery and Crookery. And currently it's over on Manga Plus Creators. And again, that's free to read it. It reads from right to left. I had to rebuild this thing in right to left because that's the format for manga. If you're interested in dipping your toe in drawing, check out my free guide to getting started with digital art over on my Gumroad channel. That's right, totally free. Just the only cost is that you got to like and subscribe to this channel right here. So what about you? Are you drawing a comic? Do you have any thoughts on their paper size? What are you working on? Or you just go digitally? Leave that in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. All right. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one. All right. Ciao.